Hi there, Massy here, back again, author of the Guidebook to Optimum Health, that one up there. And thank you for joining me. If you haven't joined me already, the last video I recorded was about the first pillar to optimum health. And I talked about if we want to radically change our health, we need to radically change our lifestyle. And we need to radically choose the lifestyle habits we have. We need to put those practices into life. And I talked about the first pillar being physical activity. I briefly talked about the importance of that. The second pillar, we'll keep it like that, keep it clean. The second pillar to optimum health, again, no surprise for anyone, is nutrition. And it's more about nutrient density as opposed to the idea of nutrition. So that just puts in mind this idea. What we want to do is ensure the food that we're putting into our body is full of nutrient. And that's one of the key things. It's one of the key principles as we're making food choices. We want to have a food that's high in nutrient, low in calories. And if we look at different foods, our vegetables, maybe our broccoli, huge amount of nutrients, micronutrients, perfect combination of macronutrients versus our donut or our piece of cake, high in calories, low in nutrient value. So again, it's a really simple policy for making good food choices. And again, there's so much misinformation. There's so many different ideas about, this diet or that diet, or this thing works better, or high carbs, low carbs, high protein, low protein, high fat, low fat. It all gets pretty confusing. If we cut it down to basic principles, one of the basic principles is eating food which is high in nutrient value but low in calories. That is the ideal. That's the superfoods when we talk about that. And some of those basic superfoods are like your dark green leafy vegetables, high in micronutrients, those vitamins, those minerals, those antioxidants, phytonutrients, which again are protective for our body and certainly protective for the health of our body. So those are the key things. Now when it comes to nutrition, one of the absolute worst things, and we need to get out of this idea that fat is a problem. Fat makes us fat, and it's been something that's been perpetuated within the fitness industry or the nutrition industry or the food industry for decades, and that's this idea about we need to eat low fat. Obviously the war on fat failed miserably as people's health continues to get worse on a standard Western diet, or I would probably call it a standard American diet. Our health continues to get worse as we go for that low health, that low fat option. What's becoming more and more evident these days, and there is a great amount of research coming out and more books on it, and a great film that just is coming out and being released in Australia in the last few days, and that's called That Sugar Film. So that is one of the keys, is this sugar thing, and it's World Health Organization used to say 10% of your calories, not more than 10% of your calories to come from sugar or high fructose corn syrup, the same sort of thing. They've reduced that by 50% down to 5%. It's something like 5 teaspoons of sugar per day. When you're above that, you're starting to get into this food being toxic for our body. And obviously the last thing we want to do is add more toxicity to our body. Body needs to process that. One of the problems with sugar, it starts disrupting a few of our key hormonal systems. You've obviously heard of insulin and insulin disruption, and that a lot is tied up in a high sugar diet. And to get away from this, to deal with reducing our consumption of sugar, one of the easiest ways is just reduce the amount of processed food we have. Something like 80% of the processed food that is on the shelf has added sugar. Whether it's, even yogurts. Here we are thinking yogurt is healthy, that's, riddled with sugar, added sugar. What would you need to add sugar to yogurt? Health food bars. Things that, low fat, but they've got high sugar in there. So one of the best things we can do is remove processed food or significantly reduce the amount of processed food we have in our diet. The other thing is for me, and while I've only got sort of a few minutes to capture a couple of the key things, I obviously go again in more detail in the book, But one of the things I say is get rid of flavoured drinks. Once you remove flavoured drinks, so let's just take a can of Coke. Can of Coca-Cola, regular, just your normal size can, it's got something like 10 teaspoons of sugar. So automatically, with that one can of Coke, you're having twice the amount of sugar that's recommended by the World Health Organization. So we're already starting to get into toxicity for our body before we've even consumed anything else in the day. So again, my key things if it comes to nutrition, and trying to summarize nutrition up in 5 minutes, I tell you, is a challenge. It's one of the biggest sections in my book, going into nutrition in a bit more specific detail. But if I was to just do, a couple of things, it would be get rid of processed food, so eating food as close to source, a whole food plant-based diet. So majority of your food plant-based, because that's where the majority of the micronutrients come from, and those micronutrients are the things that are most tied in to optimizing the health of our body. So that's one of the key things. Removing processed food, getting rid of those flavored drinks. So if you take those few things on, just those little adaptations, you're going to make a huge difference in the level of your health. So again, thank you very much for joining me. Lifestyle changes. Pillar 2, when we talk about the 6 pillars to optimum health, we talk about nutrient density, like getting that increased level of nutrient into our body. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Any questions for me as I go through these presentations, make sure you just drop me a line. If you go down to below, that will just connect you straight through to my website. Get there for details on the book, but you can also get there to send an email off to me or connect with me on Facebook and ask me any questions you like about anything to do with Optimum Health. I'm more than happy to help out. So there you go, big subject. I've just talked about a couple of little points there. I look forward to sharing with you Pillar 3 to Optimum Health, and Pillar 3 is about detoxification. So I'll see you soon.